Hello, Watem here and welcome back to small Umineko When Seagulls Cry. You might notice that my voice is completely shot. I am sick again, and my backlog of videos is running out, so yeah, I'm going to be recording anyway. But in any case, let's continue.
すぐに済ませますので。
Ken squatted in front of his shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all of his strength. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn of the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, that ominous drawing disappeared from their direct gaze, and we all breathed a sigh of relief. However, and I said, I was leaving you on a cliffhanger. The game just decided to leave you on an even bigger cliffhanger. I wonder, since Shannon wasn't supposed to be in the mansion, but I get the feeling that Natsuhi, with the sign on her door, was potentially protected by the charm and was originally supposed to die, but because the charm didn't, and then instead Shannon took the sixth place. In any case, thanks to a kids program that they came across, Maria was feeling much better. Battler and Jessica were poking fun at the kids' show at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of four that had just left? It was Genji. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of servants' virtues. To be gasping for air. He'd probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him.
Nanjo sensei, 申し訳ございません。至急お越しください。何事ですかな?
As Genji whispered something in Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children, who were still engrossed by the TV, and the two of them rapidly left the parlour, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlour, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a servant cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something into Natsuhi's ear, and Natsui went pale too in apparent shock. Then, leaving the serving cart where it was, the three of them dashed towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window.
なんだろう、源氏さんと南條先生と、あれは夏日おばさんかな。
どうしたんだよ、兄貴。
何かあったのかな。
Nah, nothing happened. I'm sure everyone's all fine.
ひどい慌てようだったね。
I'm sure it's just a fever. That's why they're looking flustered, yeah. When Jessica and Maria saw that Eva, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the servant cart had been abandoned at the entrance to the parlour, they also realized that something was the matter.
何か事故でもあったとか?
行ってみようぜ。
Yeah, an accident.
俺たちだけのけ者なんて面白くねえしね。
Yeah, maybe don't. For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet, though he couldn't deny that they were a little insecure, and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain without regards to their appearance.
行ってみようぜ。何があったか気になるぜ。
Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them.
おい、マリア、お前も来るか。それとも、 テレビを見てるか？
おお、マリアはテレビがいい。おお。
僕たちだけで行こう。マリアちゃん、すぐ戻るからね。テレビを見て待ってるんだよ。
By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a pretty good idea where they'd gone, judging by the direction they'd been running. Following Jessica, he ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to ring out like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island. It was trying to stop us from moving forward.
ジェシカ、この先には何があるんだ？
確か園芸道具なんかの倉庫があったはずだぜ。
そんなところに一体何があるんだろうね。
Only the best part of the world, definitely. Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see some adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse, without even holding an umbrella. She looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, and Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. The ones who'd left earlier, Canon, Eva, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people. There was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized that the children were approaching, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide.
来てはいけません。お屋敷へ戻っていなさい。
But despite that, no, because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsuhi was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down, and right there was... Jessica's piercing shriek rang out. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. Eva spread her arms, just like Natsui, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face.
Georgie, みんなを連れて屋敷に帰っていなさい。早く、今すぐに。
When Natsuhi spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. That wasn't why Eva was spreading her arms right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart, trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by blocking our views of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms.
何の冗談だってんだよ。こりゃあよ。
I'd seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, anime and movies. I'd seen it over and over again. This was just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't. But that suit. It's that old bastard, isn't it? I get it. And that's Uncle Kraus. And Kirie-san. And Aunt Rosa. Yeah. I can't do that with my throat right now, sorry.
ダメよジェシカ。入ってはダメ。見てはダメ。お父さん、お父さん。
死後硬直をほぼ全身に認められる。多分死後6時間以上は経過しとるだろう。損壊部位の状況を見る限り死後に破壊された可能性が高い。いや、めったなことは言えん。私は町医者だ。検視は専門外だ。
ちゅうことは何や。殺しただけじゃ飽き足らず
さらにこんな無体なことをしたん言うんか。
So someone has great hatred for all of these people, quite different people, with the servants also included, able to overpower all of them, and really, did I mention what they really hate them? I feel like there was a third point and I've forgotten what it was.
悪魔や、悪魔の所業や。
Yeah, I'm very much inclined to believe that Beatrice is a thing. What that thing is exactly, I don't know yet, but it is a concept that exists, at the very least. Aunt Natsuhi caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Heather caught George and Nikki. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. Ah. If only there had been someone there to catch me too. Oh, I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there is no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me. They're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle, and a hammer. Some carpentry tools such as a saw. Piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same. The corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kyrie-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goddess Aunt. Are there still more of them? How many people died? You're fucking kidding me. I can't even count them on one hand. Damn it. Yes, indeed, there are 6. But you... Well, I mean, you can if you count it in a different way, but you can't count with just 5 digits. Oh no. I didn't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools, which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with naked brutality. Whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, each one of the bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been ploughed. Very pleasant thing to think of. Their faces were smashed. Let me just start that again. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes and the noses were, but I could find their mouths, because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all of this were all torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spent so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now.
Oyaji! てめえは絶対地獄行きだとは思ってたぜ。
But not like this.
でもよ、ここまでじゃねえだろ。ここまでひでえ目に遭わされるほどの悪党じゃなかっただろうがよ。だからキリエさんもさ、こんな男と付き合うのはやめろって言ったんだ。あんたまでそこまでの目に遭わされる理由は何もねえじゃねえかよ。顔がねえ。顔がねえよ。
So that's one thing I'm wondering about with the other episodes of this, because there's like, oh, there we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It hasn't shown that Shannon's dead yet. Ooh, that's interesting. Interesting way of doing it. Of course, because their faces have been so damaged. I'm going to guess that shows where their faces have been damaged. So, like Gilder, I'm guessing it's like the top of his head. Well, Straw's fine. Rosa's Kyrie completely all over the face. But Kraus, I'm not sure what's worse what would be worse for children to see, like half of the face remaining, or just only being able to tell by the clothes. But yeah, anyway, I was going to say about the different episodes. If it's going to be like Higurashi, where it's like going through the same kind of timeline but with different things happening, or if it's going to be like sequential, which I doubt. I mean, I guess it's possible. We'll find out. But if it is going back in time, doing different paths, if potentially whoever dies, the first 6 that die, maybe changes. Anyway.
くそくそくそくそ
バトラさん、これ以上見てはいかん。こんな姿をお父さんもお母さんもあんたに見せたいわけがない。お父さんとお母さんのためにもこれ以上見てはいかん。
死者ってのは安らかに眠る顔ってやつを拝ませてくれるんじゃねえのかよ。顔がねえんだよ。俺の親父とキリエさんの顔がねえんだよ。どういう顔して死んじまったのか。それなんだよ俺は。親父たちのことを思い出すときはこのぐちゃぐちゃの化け物みてえな顔をいつも思い出させたのかよ。
I feel like the music's perhaps a bit too energetic for the moment. I mean, I like it. Just questioning a bit the timing of it.
そいつは最高だぜ。クソ親父のニヤニヤとした顔を思い出さなくていいんだからよ。最高だぜ最高だぜ。でもよ、キリエさんは悪党じゃねえ。たまにはムカつくと思ったけどよ。ちょいとかっこいい俺の姉気分だったお人じゃねえかよ。こりゃねえよ。こんなのってねえよ。クロスおじさんなんかまだマシじゃねえか。顔面じゃなくて側面だぜ。
Okay, yeah, so I guess I was.
少なくとも顔半分は残ってるじゃねえかよ。まだマシだぜまだマシだぜ。
Too busy confirming my theory to really pay too much attention and realize full implications. But he's saying all of this out loud. Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words.
よすんだバトラ君。もうよすんだ。もうよす。兄貴兄貴。
Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there, representing the feelings of everyone there. I screamed over and over. Shutter? No shutter? Yeah.
倒れているのはクラウスおじさん、ルドルフおじさん、キリエおばさんにローザおばさん、ゴーダさんで5人。
Actually, so all of these, it's like damage to her face. I wonder if that will continue. Wait, no. So yeah, it was the first 6. 4th, gouge your head and kill. So I bet you it's going to be like this, for example. But then 5th, gouge your chest and kill. It's going to leave her face intact, but there's going to be like red over chest instead. I bet that's what's going to happen.
いや、どこにや。こ
6.
こにもう一人おる。
How long do you think before they realize that it's these 6? The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was, despite there only being one missing person. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right.
じゃあ、お父さんの足元に倒れているのは、シャノンなんだね。
ああ、シャノンちゃんや。
George fell completely silent. He shook lightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run into his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly running forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father.
シャノンも、クラウスおじさんたちと同じなのかな。
Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Or rather, he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse is in the same condition as the others or not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state.
シャノンを見てもいいかな。
いや、あかん。
どうして？だって、もう二度とシャノンの顔を見られないんだよ。その、最後の顔。
Mind a face at least.
どうして見たらいけないんだよ。
お前が最後にシャノンちゃんに会ったのは昨日か。
うん。
そうか。そのシャノンちゃんは別れ際にお前にどんな顔を見せたんや。
素敵な笑顔だったよ。
After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then she looked bashful, and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. Perhaps the expression of it was revived in George's mind.
そうか。ならシャノンちゃんもその笑顔をお前に残したいと願うはずや。
Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side. No more than half of her expression remained. The remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, with that graceful smile of hers peeked out, but only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused her body so much humiliation, while still proving beyond doubt that her body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhuman, how brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Cannon. Cannon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. That didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative.
ジョージ、シャノンちゃんはきっとありがとう言ってるぞ。お前に恥ずかしいところを見られとうなかったんや。きっとお前が耐えてくれたこと感謝しとるで。
分かってる。分かってるよ、父さん。分かってるよ。
George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply.
父さん、頼みがあるんだ。
なんや。
僕の代わりに見てほしいんだ。シャノンは指に指輪をつけてるかな。
指輪？ちょいと見てみる。
Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands.
ああ、あるで。こりゃダイヤの指輪や。クズダイヤとちゃう。なかなかの値打ちもんや。
それはどっちの手の
Which hand, which finger?
どの指にあるのかな。
と、左手の薬指や。そっか。シャノンちゃん、婚約しとったんか。
ジョージ、あなたまさか。
エヴァ、
Now's not the time.
今はそんなん関係ないで。
Hmm.
シャノンちゃんは男に将来を約束されとったんや。一生を幸せにしちゃると男に言わせたんや。それが誰かは問題とちゃうで。男にそこまで言わしめて女の本懐やないか。いつこの指輪をもらったんかは知らん。誰が渡したかも知らん。だがそれでもシャノンちゃんは指輪をもらえたんや。そしてそれを受け入れ左の薬指に通したんや。指輪を送った男もきっと喜んだんとちゃうか。
To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words.
そっか。ありがとう。
I mean, given the context, I think most people should be able to tell
父さん。
the probing questions. George stood up. Traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one.
行こう。バトラー君、ジェシカちゃん。これ以上僕たちがここにいると大人の邪魔になる。
I wonder, they did just leave Maria alone there.
そうだな。
Jessica sniffled once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time, to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile.
バトラー、しっかり。
Butler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies.
すまねえな。がっつり泣いたら落ち着いたぜ。親父の野郎。普段はクソクソ言ってるくせに。ちょっと死んじまったくらいでピーピー泣くんじゃねえぜって笑ってやがら。仕方ねえだろ。親が死んだら泣くように遺伝子すり込まれちまってったからよ。
Butler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a bitter one.
カノン、お前もこれ以上ここにいてはいけません。子供たちを連れてお屋敷に戻っていなさい。
Natsui had been standing under rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Butler's. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Canon those orders.
はい、奥様。
Canon rose silently and turned to face me. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon. And there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he'd been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Canon might have led the way. But now, there was no distinction between Canon and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them. After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsui started giving orders to Genji.
現地、すぐに警察に連絡しなさい。
That might be an issue with the phone.
台風が通り過ぎるまでは来られないでしょうが、どうすればいいか指示を与えてくれるはずです。
わかりました。防災用の無線機がありますので、それで連絡します。
Well, that resolves the phone issue. When she heard that, Natsui remembered. That's right, the phones are out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio, since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. The phone line isn't an accident, it's purposeful, so the radio is also probably damaged, specifically to cut off communication of mainland. Ah. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait.
ナチョ先生、もうこの場はどうしようもありません。
残念ながら。
I have to say though, with his attitude, I think it's good for Goda was among one of the first. I know it's terrible to say, but on the other hand, Goda. Oh! Okay, so it has changed here, so it's like... Yeah, so Servant Goda, his corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seems to have been smashed after his death. How unfortunate. Apparently, he was originally supposed to be on duty in the guest house. Shannon. The corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. It seems the side of her head was smashed after her death. Don't worry. Everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. Oh, that's... Rosa, her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to be smashed after her death. I'll get to see her again, so I don't feel lonely. Is this from Maria's point of view? The way that's written. And I guess the innocence kind of everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. Kyrie? Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. face seems to have been smashed after her death. She was chosen by the demon's roulette. That's all there is to it. Oh, Rudolph. And again, face seems to have been smashed after his death. He has a right to lament his ill fortune. And finally, Kraus. His corpse was found inside a rose garden storehouse. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems the side of his head was smashed after his death. This is the beginning of everything. And on that note, I'll leave you there for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. Hopefully, the next time I record, my voice will be better. But until then, see ya.